Okay, fantastic. Hello everyone. This is a great topic to hit today. Stress is just kind of a part of modern living. And before we get into my recommendations for stress, I want to tell you about a program that I launched on my website. It's a free program, totally free program. It's a 21-day program. Each day you'll receive a 5-minute video and a 3 to 5 minute read that has kind of the lesson plan. And it really is a crystallization of those lifestyle, diet, and philosophical tools that have really created a life worth living in my life, and I want that same for you. And so that's why I created that program. We have a tendency to think of stress as being a bad thing, but there are many aspects of stress that are very good. We can't live without experiencing some degree of stress. It's part of life. If you take a single cell organism like an amoeba and you put that in a perfect environment, it will not thrive. To thrive, we have to have a little bit of stress to overcome. And I like what Hans Selye has to say about stress. He was the godfather of stress research. He says that stress is not even necessarily bad for you. It is also the spice of life. For any emotion, any activity causes stress. But of course, your system must be prepared to take it. And that's what we're going to focus on today. How can we enhance our system, strengthen our whole body and mind, and its ability to deal with the stress of modern life? I'm sure you all are familiar with the biology of this stress response. We have the classic fight or flight response. And on the slide here, you'll see that the biology, the stress response, is really related to activation of the sympathetic nervous system. And think about what you would need to get away from a tiger chasing you. Well, uh, you want your eyes dilated so you could see what's ahead of you. You want your blood flow leaving your internal organs and getting to your muscles so you can run faster. Your blood pressure is going to be increased. Your heart's going to be pounding. All of these are examples of physiological responses to activation of our sympathetic nervous system. On the flip side of our sympathetic nervous system, we have the parasympathetic nervous system. And this portion of the autonomic nervous system is responsible for producing the relaxation response. And it's under this parasympathetic tone that we get improved healing. We have improved digestion. We have increased blood supply to our brain and to our extremities. We get more blood flow into internal organs. And overall, our physiology is designed to spend more time under that parasympathetic state. And if things get a little bit out of balance and we don't get enough time in that parasympathetic state, that's when the body really starts breaking down. In addition to activation of the sympathetic nervous system, the stress response also leads to activation of our adrenal glands. And this leads to a rise in cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone that's in the news a lot these days. People are becoming aware of it and they recognize that it is associated with stress, and it is also associated with accelerated aging, increased abdominal obesity, loss of insulin sensitivity, brain cell death, and a loss of muscle and bone mass. So we don't want these. We want to dampen the effects of cortisol. So that's going to be a big focus today. So get ready. So when we talk about dealing with stress, it's not one single thing. It's developing a comprehensive stress management system. So that means developing positive coping strategies, stabilizing blood sugar levels, nourishing your body and brain, getting a good night's sleep, and learning to manage your life better. Time, relationship, exercise, lifestyle, all of these things play a role in our ability to deal with stress. I also think it's important to actively trigger that relaxation response. And this is done primarily through deep breathing exercises. There's a feedback mechanism. When we take that deep diaphragmatic breath, it sends a signal to our brain to relax. It also pumps our lymphatic system, and overall, it helps us improve our ability to function in this world. And so I want to encourage you to engage in deep breathing exercises, whether it's meditation, prayer, progressive relaxation, self-hypnosis, yoga, something that's going to get you breathing deeply, get that diaphragm activated, and stimulating that relaxation response. I'll tell you a little story of some of the tricks that I use. So let's get your brain right. And first of all, let's talk a little bit about what determines the way that we feel. And I want to help you feel better. And so, but first we need to talk about what are these factors that really determine the way that we feel. There's two things. One is internal focus. And this includes the images that we hold up before our mind's eye. And it also includes the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we explain the events in our lives, our habitual questions that we ask ourselves, and other ways in which we communicate, all influence our internal focus and the way that we feel. So if we want to feel better, we have to impact that area as well. We're going to talk about diet, nutritional supplements, but I want to spend this first part kind of laying a strong foundation, because that's where it begins. You have to have a strong foundation if you want to achieve anything. If you want to build a big building, you don't start from the top down. You actually start below the surface, making sure that foundation is super strong. So the other factor that influences the way that we feel is our physiology. And this includes not only all the hormonal, nutritional, and other chemical factors that are floating around in our body, but also the way that we hold our body, our posture, the way that we breathe. So just become more aware, because if you want more energy, if you want to activate that diaphragmatic breathing and the relaxation response in the parasympathetic nervous system, you have to become aware. So just pay attention, and there might be specific areas of your body that has some tension, and you can utilize progressive relaxation techniques, or just really concentrating in that area along with your deep breathing to get it to relax a bit. So I want to try and help you achieve a higher level of happiness in your life. So we're going to look at what is happiness, and what is a healthy view of happiness. We often think of happiness as being exclusive, experiencing life. And what I mean by that is that happiness isn't necessarily a negation of sadness or stress or any other negative emotion. It's just the ability to achieve a higher level of well-being and satisfaction. I know many people, their chief goal in life is to be happy, but the reality is that we're not going to be happy 100% of the time. And the key is learning to manage our state and being able to control any downward spiral from occurring. So a disease model is looking at unhappiness as kind of a disease, and it's looking at utilizing, in this day and age, mainly pharmacological agents to change your brain chemistry. Well, I think there's a healthier approach to that, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do to improve our health model of happiness. So let's talk a little bit about what is not associated with happiness. Well, what is not associated with happiness is geography, wealth, age, sex, race, or education. Because you can find unhappy people anywhere in the world, any financial state, any age, male, female, trans, whatever, any race, and any education level. So what is associated with happiness? This is interesting because these are things that we can largely control and influence. We can achieve greater happiness by focusing on these areas of life. If you focus on these areas, they naturally lead to experiencing more happiness in your life, optimism, high self-esteem, sense of control over your life, strong interpersonal relationships, health and physical fitness, and gratitude. These are things that we can take control of and achieve on our own. So it's a very empowering approach to achieving happiness instead of relying on something external. So it begins with a dose of positivity. Positive attitude goes a long way. And there's a whole movement in psychology called positive psychology that's showing beyond any shadow of a doubt how powerful simple exercises that build optimism and gratitude can be in promoting happiness. Years ago, if you admitted to talking to yourself, they may have locked you away. But now we know that there's this constant internal dialogue going on, and we can utilize that dialogue to help program our subconscious mind. And affirmations are powerful, questions are powerful. Conditioning is powerful. Again, I want to put a plug for my Thrive program because the first day I give you my tools for programming my subconscious to feel powerfully alive and full of love, joy, peace, and happiness. And that's what I want for everyone. So please sign up for that Thrive program. Again, it's free. I want to talk a little bit about personality because our wiring certainly plays a role. And I do believe that there are some inherent wirings that play a role in determining our personality traits. And there are, according to the Myers-Briggs, about 16 different personality types. But if we divide them up into two basic groups, type A and type B, there's also a type C and on, but I'm not going to get into that. Most people are familiar with type A and type B personalities. Type A personalities, these people tend to be very urgent about time. They can be a little bit easily aggravated. They can be ambitious and competitive. And we know that type A's have an increased risk for heart disease. And type B, these are all these easygoing people that drive us type A people a little bit crazy. And we know that these people have a lower rate of heart disease. And as you can probably tell, I'm a type A person, and I'm also a good medical researcher. So when I came across this data, I wanted to dig a little deeper to truly understand it. And I came across this study that it's a famous study. It was done in physicians, and they followed these in this case men for many years. It was a very long term study. It's still going on, and what they found was something really interesting. So this chart is showing you their mortality. In the red group is the type A personalities that had high hostility. They were easily angered and showed hostility. Those that had low hostility, they didn't die. And this study showed that high levels of hostility are more significant in causing heart disease, death, than cholesterol levels. So the reason why the type A personality has an increased risk of heart disease and mortality isn't that they are a type A personality, it's that they are a type A personality that expresses hostility. And uh, I had a great lesson when I was very young. I had a wonderful grandmother, and uh, I had a little bit of a hothead when I was a kid. And she took me aside one day and she said, Michael, do you know what it feels like when you're getting angry? And I said, yes. And she goes, well, and when you start getting angry, I want you to stop, take a deep breath, and sing a little song. And I would do anything for my grandmother. And this was not a big ask. So I said, well, what song is that, Gram? And she said, it's row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And that's a wonderful attitude to have when we're faced with challenges, either immediate or chronic challenges. It helps us diffuse the seriousness of the situation. Life is but a dream. We're here for such a short span in the big scheme of things. So that's just one of my little tricks, and I still do it today. There's many instances where I'll find myself in a situation and I'll start laughing because I think of this trigger and this anchor for me. And you need to find those sorts of anchors in your life so that you can diffuse all those stress hormones from building up. And next, I want to talk about sleep because I found that the quickest way to help people handle stress better is to help them get a better night's sleep. And many people that are severely stressed out, they're not sleeping well. So they're exhausted, their adrenal glands are extremely responsive. So we have to help them get a good night's sleep. And we're learning more and more about sleep, but everyone knows for sure that we absolutely must sleep. Some of us need more than others. It's essential for our survival. It's essential for our ability to deal with stress. And we all know this. Think of a time where maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. And think about maybe how you felt and maybe how you interacted with other people. You're probably a little bit shorter, you're more irritable, easily angered. Now think of a time where you got a great night's sleep. Everything looks brighter to you. Everybody seems so happy, and you're happier, and you're able to handle more stress. So I want to help you get a better night's sleep. So I'm going to give you some important guidelines in doing that. First, I want to talk about the normal sleep architecture because there's a lot of misconceptions about these stages of sleep. So our sleep is composed of cycles, usually of about 90 minutes. And so the first sleep cycle, we generally get into those deeper levels of sleep, stages 3 and 4, and sleep very soundly. Then we only have about 5 minutes of dream time at the end of that 90 minutes, and then we start another sleep cycle. And you notice that in the second and subsequent sleep cycles, we don't get that really deep sleep. So those first 2 sleep cycles are really, really important. So that translates to about the first 3 and a half hours of sleep. Super important. Now, uh, the more sleep cycles we have, the longer time we spend in REM sleep. And I think REM sleep is absolutely critical as well. We need deep sleep and we need adequate REM sleep. We need to dream. Why do we dream? Well, there's a lot of information on the slide here telling you all the reasons why we dream. But the bottom line is that dreaming allows us to problem solve what's going on in our life. It's done through imagery and uh, uh, various symbols and different meanings. But if we're given a dream, we absolutely must try to decipher it because it's a gift. Freud said that A dream that is not interpreted is like a letter not opened. And I think the letter is from something deep within us. I really do. It's a clue to what's going on with our subconscious mind. Sometimes we get great inspiration and direction. I think we're connected to a higher consciousness in our dream state. So, very important that we look at dreams. Now, I want to go back to this normal sleep architecture and talk a little bit about sleeping pills, because sleeping pills will put you out, but they don't allow you to achieve those deeper levels of sleep, and they don't allow you to spend significant amount of time in REM sleep. So you're not getting fully charged. You're not getting all of the benefits that our body and mind were designed to receive through sleep. And that may be why that we see such significant detrimental effects with regular sedative hypnotic drugs. I want to talk first a little bit about the myth of the 8-hour sleep, because it'll vary from person to person. And a few years back, again, I like to look and understand what's going on in my life. And my sleep cycles really turned tide a few years back. And what I found is that I would get up, I would wake up, if I went to, usually it was happened more in the winter months. In the summer months, I usually would go to bed around 10 and I'd get up at 5 and I'd be good to go. In the winter months, if I went to bed at 10, I found that I might wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I might be up. I found my brain really alive and clear. And I found it was a great time to think, meditate, do some of my priming exercises to really program my subconscious mind. And sometimes I would work. Sometimes I might just get caught up in world events and see what's going on. All these things became available to me, and I was worried that I wasn't a healthy thing. But what I found is that this was the way that our ancestors slept. They would get up, they would have candlelight and get engaged in conversation, and maybe they would read. They would really keep themselves busy and wouldn't just lay in bed. They'd get up and be up for a little bit. And this was called a second sleep. And that's what I found to be very helpful for me. And what it did for me when I went back to sleep, I found I might get only one sleep cycle, but half of that sleep cycle or more would be REM sleep, and I would be able to remember and interpret those dreams. And I think that's been very helpful for me in achieving a high level of happiness and understanding and personal growth. So yeah, this is what works for me. That's a common night for me. I also think that it's okay to take a nap. Napping restores alertness, memory, and mood. It's associated with reducing stress, and it reduces the risk of having a heart attack. And it does not interfere with nighttime sleep, especially if it's kept less than 20 minutes. I love this study. It came out in 2007. It was based upon examining over 20,000 people for over 6.5 years. They found that people that took a siesta of any frequency or duration had a 34% reduced risk of having a heart attack. And they found that those that occasionally nap produced a 12% lower coronary mortality rate, while those who regularly napped had a 37% lower coronary mortality. What's the significance of that? Well, when we're sleeping, we're under that parasympathetic tone. That's what it's really all about, is really spending quality time in that parasympathetic state. It can happen while you're awake as well. Okay, Yeah, stay away from sleeping pills. Numerous immediate side effects, the dramatic increased risk for dementia, incredible negative impact on shortening life expectancy, highly addictive. Use natural products instead. Uh, Lots of data over the years. This is one of the initial studies that looked at the mortality rate of people that were on Ambien-like drugs, and what they found that these drugs and other sleeping pills may have been associated with almost every excess death in the U.S. Because the impact of these drugs on mortality is significant. The more doses you take, the more years you take them, the greater your risk of dying prematurely as a result of these drugs. Think about it. If we need sleep to recharge and regenerate, and these drugs actually inhibit normal sleep processes, it's little wonder that they cause so many significant side effects. And here's a little bit of advice. Never take a pill that has more side effects than you have symptoms. There are safe and effective natural ways to improve sleep quality. The first is to get rid of or reduce disruptors of sleep. Stress, depression, faulty blood sugar control, nutrient deficiencies, particularly magnesium and B vitamins, too much caffeine, alcohol, and other drugs, not enough physical and mental exercise. If you can't sleep, sometimes it's the result of not exhausting yourself. So I find that's a great cure for a poor night's sleep. Just really putting in a significant day of physical and mental work. We can also have hormonal disruptions and other disturbances in brain chemistry, such as low brain serotonin, melatonin, or GABA activity. But what I found is that the biggest cause of poor sleep quality in America is poor blood sugar control. Most people are on what I call the blood sugar roller coaster. This roller coaster is one where blood sugar levels go up because of a high sugar diet, and that leads to insulin overshoot, and that leads to rapid decline, and that leads to cortisol release, and it goes right back up. And so you're on this roller coaster. And I was looking at this many years ago, and it made so much sense to me. We know that most people in America have metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance. If your waist is larger than your hips, if you're overweight, you're likely suffering from insulin resistance, and you're on that blood sugar roller coaster. If you're irritable if a meal is missed, if you feel much better after eating, those are also signs. But the biggest one is if you wake up often during the night and have a hard time getting back to sleep. Here's the thing about this blood sugar roller coaster. You could be on a beach in Hawaii on vacation, not a care in the world, and you could be in a hammock and the breeze blowing, and just an idyllic state. You can hear the waves crashing. You're totally relaxed. Nothing's going on that's causing you any stress. But if you're on that blood sugar roller coaster and that blood sugar levels drop, you can get that sympathetic response. You get that cortisol release. And so that can lead to feelings of anxiousness, can lead to triggers of hunger. It can lead to fatigue. It can lead to brain fog. Yeah, it's very, very common. So how do you get off of this? Well, it starts with diet. And I know the Mediterranean diet's quite popular, and it has a lot of good science behind it, but I'm going to make a significant adjustment to it. So this is the typical pyramid that you will see for the Mediterranean diet. So here's the conventional Mediterranean diet. Here's the Dr. Murray version. So let me just show you the traditional one. Okay, there it is. What am I doing? I'm getting rid of the bread, the rice, the pasta, the potatoes, all the complex carbs, that are starches, and I am also getting rid of the sugar. Okay, so this is I think a healthy Mediterranean diet, and we can use these same dietary principles with the Asian diet as well, or the traditional Latin diet. It doesn't matter. We in this day and age, we just don't need all these carbs. So all the bad carbs. We need some good carbs, but not all these starches and complex carbs. Rice, pasta, grains, bread. So I eat very little of those foods, only on occasion and in very small portion sizes. That goes a long way in helping to stabilize your blood sugar levels. There's been a dramatic improvement in our ability to monitor blood sugar levels, and it's called continuous glucose monitoring. Now you can follow your blood sugar levels on your phone. I started looking at this with Dr. Michael Lyon over 20 years ago, and it was very difficult to do. The Medtronic version was the only one that was out there, and yeah, it was a little bit more difficult than it is now, but it provided a lot of good information. And we were looking at a dietary supplement called PGX, which is a revolutionary dietary fiber. It's able to produce results at 5 grams, where you'd have to take 100 grams of other types of fiber, which isn't feasible. But I've never seen anything do what PGX can do in terms of stabilizing blood sugar levels. So what you see on the screen is someone who was on the blood sugar roller coaster. We put them on a low glycemic load diet, and we gave them 5 grams of PGX granules before meals. And you can see that we literally flatlined their blood sugar response. And this is amazing. Nothing has ever been shown to produce this effect. PGX is unique in this action. And I wish that more people were aware of it, because when you stabilize blood sugar levels to this degree, you greatly enhance metabolic health. So it's useful in helping people control their appetite, lose weight, get their blood sugar under control, improve their blood lipids. It really is something quite significant. And it also is amazing in its ability to help people get a good night's sleep. If you stabilize blood sugar levels, you dramatically improve sleep quality. Here's a good story. It was a 40-year-old woman that had been in a car wreck. And after 7 years after having this car wreck, she more than doubled her body weight. So she went up from 135 to 270, for example. And when we analyzed her blood glucose levels, a continuous monitor, it was quite clear what was happening. She would wake up in the middle of the night around 3 a.m. And you can see that her blood sugar level never got below 100, but anytime there's a rapid drop, it can produce hypoglycemic symptoms, and part of those symptoms are related to activation of the sympathetic nervous system. So she would wake up and she'd be out of control, voraciously hungry, and she would binge on whatever she could find, and mostly it was high sugar cereals. And so she would go on a sugar binge, and she'd go back to sleep, and because she had so much insulin going on, she was able to, even though she had a high sugar intake, her blood sugar levels would stabilize, and so that she would go back to sleep and then wake up very late in the day and have something else, and all of a sudden her blood sugar levels are going up and down, and she's on that blood sugar roller coaster. So we placed her on the low glycemic load diet and the PGX And after 4 weeks, you can see that, boy, we got numbers below 100, and there's very good stability, very good stability. And she said she's happy to report that within 3 days of your program, I slept through the night for the first time in years and have done so every night ever since. I'm losing so much weight that some people's jaws drop when they see me now. Now, she was part of the clinical study, and we did not tell her to expect this impact on her sleep quality. I've helped thousands of people with insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and invariably, the first thing that they notice is that they're sleeping through the night, something that most of them have not done for quite some time. So if this applies to you, take PGX. It provides very unique benefits. Nothing seems to work like PGX, no other fiber, no other medication. If you're just looking for a reduction in after meal glucose levels, you don't need to lose weight. You only need about 1 to 2.5 grams. If you're needing to lose weight or control your appetite, then you're going to need at least 5 grams before meals, and take the granules. Now, most people tolerate that full dose from the very beginning. About 10% of people, if they start out at 5 grams, they may have some increased gas or a looser stool. If that happens, just go to that lower dose. It's still providing benefits, and then just gradually work up to that high dose of 5 grams. There's no drug interactions as long as you take the medications 1 hour before or 1 hour after PGX. Again, best results, take it before meals. It doesn't impact net nutrient absorption. It delays the absorption, but the net amount absorbed is not impacted. Same thing with medications. Okay, so let's talk about some other natural sleep aids. These are very well-known: melatonin, 5-HTP, L-theanine, pharmagaba, magnesium, valerian. Those are by far the top natural sleep aids. Melatonin, very safe. But I found that many people don't get full results from melatonin, and they should. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that their sleep-wake cycle is disrupted. We're all doing things differently than we did at any other time. International travel, staying up all night, various disruptions to our normal biorhythm. And that creates what's called the sleep-wake cycle disorder. We see these a lot in elderly people. They're able to sleep through the day. I mean, they can't, you put them in front of a TV or give them a book to read, and they can't keep their eyes open. They fall asleep, but they can't get to sleep at night. So their cycles have to get reset. And what I found to be very helpful with doing that is taking 3 milligrams of the active form of vitamin B12, methylcobalamin, upon arising, and then taking 3 to 5 milligrams of melatonin at night. I found that to be a secret weapon for a lot of people that have sleep-wake cycle disorders. So just remember that. If you've tried melatonin and it didn't work and you're over the age of 50, it should work. You should see some benefit. Try taking 3 milligrams of methylcobalamin in the morning and 3 to 5 milligrams of melatonin at night. And I think you'll find that it works much better. Another good sleep aid is 5-hydroxytryptophan. And I want to talk a little bit about its benefit over regular tryptophan. It's like tryptophan. It is a precursor to serotonin and melatonin. But when you take tryptophan, it can take a different turn, and it can produce a compound called kynurenine. And this compound can block the conversion of tryptophan to 5-HTP. So tryptophan hasn't shown consistent results in helping people with depression and insomnia. In some cases, it makes them worse. because if this conversion to kynurenine is excessive, you're going to get less 5-HTP being formed. So 5-HTP bypasses this. It gets transported directly into the brain. It passes the blood-brain barrier without a transporter, and that leads to increased serotonin levels and increased melatonin levels. So the bottom line, don't use L-tryptophan, use 5-HTP. 5-HTP can boost serotonin levels, and you can see that these are all the conditions that are associated with low serotonin levels. Not surprisingly, there are clinical studies with 5-HTP showing it to be effective in all of these conditions associated with low serotonin levels. It makes sense because it's the direct precursor to serotonin, which kind of helps us initiate our sleep cycle. Now, you don't have to take 5-HTP only at night. If you have depression or any of these other conditions of low serotonin levels, you can take 50 milligrams before meals, and it should be enteric coated so it doesn't upset your stomach, or in chewable tablets. You see some other things here related to sleep: narcolepsy and sleep apnea. 5-HTP has been shown to be helpful in both of those situations as well. We know that it increases both serotonin and melatonin levels. It reduces the time required to go to sleep. It promotes sleep maintenance. It increases REM sleep, increases deep sleep stages 3 and 4. This is a great natural sleep aid. As I said, I like 50 milligrams 3 times a day. You can take it at night, but I think it works best if you take it 50 minutes, or excuse me, 50 milligrams before meals. Really, it helps kind of build up that melatonin, and so when it's time to go to sleep, you get that release, and it helps reduce the time required to go to sleep. I also like natural forms of GABA. On the marketplace, there are 2 basic forms of GABA. There's the natural form, and here are a couple of brand names: Pharmagaba and Sanwa-GABA. Pharmagaba is produced through fermentation with a probiotic, Lactobacillus agaricus, and Sanwa-GABA is produced from fermented barley. But natural forms of GABA are different. Even though synthetic GABA should work just as well, it doesn't. And I have an explanation for that. GABA is a very simple molecule. And the way that it works is it binds to receptor sites, much like a key would bind to a lock. And the synthetic must differ, not in the chemical formula, but in the chemical shape. And so the key doesn't quite fit in the lock. So we don't see the same benefits with the synthetic form of GABA. This was shown in a study that was done in Japan, where they gave subjects either natural GABA or synthetic GABA. They gave them stress. They gave them a math test, and they looked at the salivary cortisol levels and other markers of stress, and they found that the natural form worked to reduce stress. The synthetic did not work. So you got to use natural GABA. And one of the things that they showed is the natural GABA reduced cortisol levels. We know that the effects of GABA can be quite immediate on activating the parasympathetic nervous system. You see, it appears that when you take GABA orally, it's not that it's getting into your brain to produce its effects, it's producing the effects in the gut. And one of those effects is activating the parasympathetic nervous system. We can see that because with administration of GABA, within 30 minutes, there's a constriction of the pupil showing parasympathetic activity, and blood pressure and heart rate will also drop. And this was shown at 100 milligram a day dosage. There are also clinical studies with Pharmagaba in improving sleep quality. So it has an ability to improve sleep quality and reduce nighttime awakenings. This was shown in men over the age of 50. So many men over the age of 50 have prostate enlargement and get up frequently. They should give pharmagaba a try, because in this study in Japan, there was reduced nighttime awakening in elderly men, presumably who had BPH. Typically, the dose that I recommend is 200 milligrams. I recommend that at night before going to bed. I like the chewable pharmagaba tablets. I think they work really well. We now have GABA producing probiotics. Lactobacillus plantarum LP815 is on the market. 1 billion CFU dosage may produce up to 100 milligrams of your own GABA. So this is a very interesting, I think, harbinger of what we're going to see in the future. We're going to see probiotics being used to produce naturally occurring compounds in our body. So very cool. Next, I like magnesium. Magnesium has significant effects in helping us handle stress more effectively. If you look at all the clinical applications of magnesium supplementation, they're quite extensive, mainly in cardiovascular conditions, but I've highlighted also anxiety, depression, and insomnia. The reason why we see so many magnesium responsive disorders is that most people only get about half the magnesium each day that their body needs. We should be getting 350 to 500 milligrams of magnesium a day from our diet. Most people only get about half that amount. So we have to make up that difference with supplementation. And magnesium supplementation is shown to be very effective in helping people with insomnia and anxiety. This was illustrated by a meta-analysis of 15 double-blind studies. The conclusion I'll read, you can see it there for yourself as well. Supplemental magnesium is likely useful in the treatment of mild anxiety and insomnia, particularly in those with low magnesium status, which is virtually everyone that is not supplementing their diet with magnesium. So I think magnesium is one of the key supplements as part of your supplement program for stress. Here's more studies that showing that the conclusion here was magnesium is a safe and effective treatment to mild to moderate depression and anxiety. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that. This was 248 milligrams of magnesium per day. It was a safe and effective treatment in mild to moderate depression and anxiety. You know, you don't get depressed because your brain is deficient in Prozac, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, or any other antidepressant drug. But you can develop depression, anxiety, and insomnia if you're low in magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, and many other nutrients. So we got to get people off these drugs. They're a dead end, and they're causing more harm than they are good. There's a study that showed that magnesium improves sleep, just what we're talking about. So it works for any age. You need magnesium to feel relaxed and initiate sleep. So magnesium is one of my fundamental foundational supplement recommendations for stress. I like 250 to 500 milligrams at night. I like the effervescent forms like citrate or bisglycinate. These are easily absorbed forms, and they have good data showing that they can be helpful in helping with stress, anxiety, and insomnia. We also need to take a high potency multiple. I got here, use the methyl forms of B12 and folate. I'm going to quickly go over that. We know that these are very important. We need extra vitamin D3. We need some sort of plant-based antioxidant. Generally, for me, what I recommend to people is grapeseed extract. You get a good bang for your buck. 150 to 300 milligrams a day. So these are my fundamental recommendations. The last one, EPA and DHA, these omega-3 fatty acids. Look at the level of EPA and DHA, and you want to get between 1,000 and 2,000 milligrams per day from a fish oil. Vitamin B12 is very effective in improving sleep-wake cycle disorders if we use that methylcobalamin form. Again, that's 3 milligrams upon arising. Let me explain what is the difference between the methyl form versus the regular B12 form. So this slide is showing you methylation reactions and where we need this form of vitamin B12. If we have we need the active form of folic acid and B12 in making S-adenosylmethionine and also in making glutathione. And you've probably heard how important these compounds are to your health. SAMe is very important for methylation of compounds in our brain, neurotransmitters. Glutathione is very important in detoxification reactions and in the function of our mitochondria, energy producing compartments in our cells. So we need these active forms of folic acid in B12 that about 50% of people are compromised. It depends upon your genetics, so it's really important for some people to know what their MTHFR polymorphism is. It's really important in people that have poor detoxification and multiple chemical sensitivities, people with autism. Yeah, and you can, if you don't want to spend the money on a genetic test, you can just simply use the methyl form. Folic acid, for example, or and some of these other forms of B12, they're just not available in nature. So this is showing you the cyanocobalamin, which is the most common form of B12 compared to the methyl form. So the methyl form is the active form. It's the one that's going to produce the greatest benefits. So that's the one you want to use. With folic acid, again, we want to use this form, methyl tetrahydrofolate. This is the active form of folic acid. If you take regular folic acid, which again doesn't exist in nature, it has to be metabolized, and there's some concern that some of these metabolites can produce some negative effects. So I think that all of us should be switching to this methyl tetrahydrofolate or methylfolate form. It bypasses, it's active from the very get-go, and it's a safer, more useful form. I'm going to quickly go through the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids. Most people know that these are very helpful for over 60 different health conditions, including depression, but it's also very helpful to boost your omega-3 fatty levels for insomnia and stress. They're critical brain components. So your brain is literally a vat of fat. So when people call you a fathead, they're telling the truth. You've got to just come to the realization that your brain is full of fat, and the type of fat that you consume in your diet determines the type of fat that you have in your brain. Better fat in the brain, better brain function. Better fat in the brain, better able to deal with stress. So we know that omega-3 fatty acids exert an adaptogenic effect on stress. They reduce our cortisol levels. They reduce signs of stress. They have been shown to not only exert typical anti-stress effects, but also the effects of biological stress. And the bottom line is, like all adaptogens, these omega-3 fatty acids increase our resilience to stress, and it leads to the production of protective compounds. So a lot of the benefits of taking fish oils may be related to this ability to reduce stress and also exert anti-inflammatory activity. I've given you the dosage recommendation. Generally, it's 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams for general health. If you have an inflammatory condition, you may need higher dosage for stress, depression, and brain effects. The dosage is based upon EPA content. I know that's different than what you've heard. You've heard how important DHA is for your brain, but almost all of the DHA that's in your brain is made in your brain. So taking DHA is not going to raise DHA levels as effectively as taking EPA. This has been shown in the results that we see in depression with EPA versus DHA. So, and think about it, you know, all these formulas for kids, you know, for infants and pregnant moms is focused on DHA because it's so important in neural development. But the DHA in the brain is made from EPA. So EPA has shown better results. There's a lot of marketing claims out there for different sources of omega-3 fatty acids. The bottom line is that it's the amount of EPA and DHA combined that determines the clinical effectiveness. You've got to keep that in mind. And one of the tools that we have to look at the benefits of different forms of fish oil is looking at the impact that they have on what's called the omega-3 index. So our goal is to get that omega-3 index above 8%. So that means that 8% of the fat in your red blood cells and presumably throughout your body is these long-chain omega-3 fatty acids. To do that with fish oil, you're going to need a dose of 1,200 milligrams EPA and DHA combined in most cases. Now, krill oil is about 50% better absorbed than fish oils in terms of the EPA DHA content. So that means that you would need to take 800 milligrams of krill oil supplied EPA and DHA. So if the krill oil has 20% EPA and DHA, that means you need to take 4 grams of krill oil, which is going to be very expensive. The key again is taking enough of EPA and DHA to get you above 8%. You can measure it if you have a lot of omega-3, long-chain omega-3s in your diet because you're eating sardines, salmon, mackerel, and herring. You may not need to take as high a dose of a fish oil supplement. So I think, you know, measuring your omega-3 fatty acid may be the most important blood test that you can do for longevity. I want to move on and talk about adaptogens. This will be the final subject. Adaptogens are botanical compounds that typically, but I just told you fish oil is an adaptogen. By definition, an adaptogen prevents the negative effects of stress and increases our ability to deal with stress, and also produces a broad range of beneficial effects without causing any major side effects, and has an ability to balance body chemistry and function regardless of the direction of disturbance. For example, typically these adrenal adaptogens like ginseng, rhodiola, ashwagandha, if your cortisol levels are low, it'll raise them. If your cortisol levels are high, it'll lower them. So it has this equilibrating alternative or adaptogenic influence on substances, regardless of whether they're high or low. It's going to help bring them into balance, which is, this baffles modern pharmacology, because in modern pharmacology, when you give a substance that lowers cortisol levels, it's always going to lower cortisol levels. But the body has some sort of wisdom that's able to use these compounds from these plants primarily to reset your thermostat. It's kind of like drugs just only work in one direction, while the botanical adaptogens, they're able to be like a thermostat that can monitor for a range of temperature and influence the heater to kick on when it needs to, or the air conditioning, depending upon the temperature. So it's just a beautiful, harmonious aspect of these adaptogens. Adaptogens generally restore vitality and increase feelings of energy, and they improve mental and physical performance. The most popular adaptogens are the ginsengs, Chinese or Korean ginseng. I didn't put Siberian ginseng on here. I focused on these most popular ones: rhodiola, ashwagandha, and I put black seed oil here, and I'll talk a bit about black seed oil. Now, I want to give you some differentiating aspects among these popular adaptogens. Some formulas have multiple adaptogens in there, and there's so many others. I could have put maca on there. I mean, there's so many adaptogens out there, but these are the most popular. Of these, ashwagandha outsells all others combined by at least 10-fold. So ashwagandha has emerged as the most popular adaptogen out there in the marketplace, primarily the KSM 66 form. It has the best science behind it. So let's talk a little bit about when you might want to use one of these over another. I think that Chinese or Korean ginseng is the best choice for those with metabolic syndrome or recovering from significant stress or illness, where you really need to boost their energy because they're just so beaten down. If they've used prednisone for more than 6 months, for example, consider Panax ginseng. It's a very powerful adrenal adaptogen. The dosage is based upon ginsenoside content. The therapeutic effectiveness of any drug or natural product is based upon delivering an effective dose. And so we know that these ginsenosides are key active components. If you look at the percentage, if it's a 4% or a 10%, it means that 90 to 96% of the extract has other compounds. Those are important too. These are just marker compounds that help us use a consistent product and to see consistent results. So the dose is based on the ginsenoside content, 10 to 20 milligrams total ginsenosides, 1 to 3 times daily, depending upon a person's size and just basically how much support that they need. You can start out at the lower dose and gradually work out up to a higher dose. If you take too much ginseng, it can be very stimulatory. So that's how you would know if you took too much. Rhodiola is the best choice to help relieve acute stress. If you're under some stress and it's related to just kind of an immediate shock or circumstance, I think rhodiola is the best for producing an immediate feeling of relaxation and anti-anxiety effects. If you are going to be engaging in something that tends to stress you out, give Pharmagaba a try. I think it works really great for these sort of things. Maybe you get nervous giving a business presentation or playing golf or any of a number of things. Try taking 200 milligrams of Pharmagaba and see how you feel after that. It generally would perform better. But rhodiola, I would use. Let's say you're have a fear of flying and you need some immediate relaxation before you get on that plane. I think rhodiola is your best choice. I really do. And then I give you the dosage. Dosage is based upon the level of rosamin, 3.6 to 7.2 milligrams per day. And I give you some dosage ranges based upon the concentration. Ashwagandha, as I said, the number one adaptogen in the marketplace by a very large margin and growing. Best choice, I think, for generally healthy people, those with poor sleep quality and low DHEA levels. When people are under a lot of stress, their cortisol levels rise and their DHEA levels decline. And ashwagandha is really good at lowering that cortisol while also raising that DHEA level. And I also think ashwagandha may have the best anti-aging effects. I think it's the best choice for people that are just using an adaptogen for general health enhancement and not specifically for any severe anxiety, stress, or acute circumstance. I think for most people, it's going to be your number one choice. Although I'm going to give you one that I added to my routine a few months ago, and it's something that I definitely felt a difference in taking. So again, with ashwagandha, the dosage is based upon the active components, which are called withanolides. For an extract at 10%, the dosage is 125 to 250 milligrams twice a day. For KSM 66, I would recommend 300 milligrams twice daily. And again, that form has the most science behind it and exceptional quality control. The adaptogen that I added to my program recently is thymoquin, which is the gold standard of black seed oil, which is derived from Nigella sativa, which is cumin. It's native to the Middle East, India, North Africa, and Mediterranean. It was used as a medicine and food for at least 2,500 years. Black seed is mentioned more frequently than any other plant in the Bible, and some other ancient texts referred to black seed oil specifically as a panacea for all ailments except mortality. We've seen a tremendous increase in the scientific research with black seed oil, with over 2,000 scientific articles, greater than tenfold increase in publications since 2000. And I think it may be the best panacea for modern life, but I'm going to tell you why I recommend a specific form of black seed oil called thymoquin. So this slide is showing you all the biological actions of black seed oil, and it truly exemplifies an adaptogen. And if we look at its multitude of effects in improving bodily functions, it hits every major system. Look at them there: cardiovascular, digestive, endocrine, immune, muscular, nervous, renal, reproductive, respiratory, and skeletal system health can all be improved through taking black seed oil. It is really something special. So I take only the thymoquin. This is a standardized cold pressed full spectrum black seed oil. It's not an extract. When you make an extract with black seed oil, you're losing some of the magic. It's a complex of many active compounds, and there's a lot of considerations in choosing a black seed oil. This particular form is the only one that meets the USP monograph, and it's able to do that because it has a standardized level of thymoquinone, which is one of the key active components, 3%, and it also has a low maximum level of free fatty acids. These compounds can interfere with the health benefits produced by the thymoquinone and other compounds. This is really something special. The seeds that are pressed were not derived by GMO. They were cultivated to be very high, not only in thymoquinone, but other active compounds. And what researchers found is that it's not just enough to have a consistent level of the thymoquinone. You have to have it in the proper ratio to all the other active compounds. So this black seed oil, thymoquin, is truly something special. And we know it's special not only by its chemical composition, but what translates from that chemical composition in scientific investigation. What they found was that, compared to products that maybe have the same thymoquinone content, but have a very high free fatty acid intake, there was a 10-fold advantage to thymoquin compared to these other black seed oils. And when we look at the clinical results, there are some clinical results that have only been seen with the thymoquin form of black seed oil. So these are the unique benefits to thymoquin. It reduces stress, and this was significant in the study that I'll review for you in just a minute. It reduced salivary cortisol levels by 44%. It also has significant effects on mitochondrial function. And when you improve energy production, you improve cellular function. It also improves metabolic health. It promotes a healthy liver, healthy blood pressure. It helps with insulin response and can help with blood sugar control. And of course, it exerts a significant health promoting effect on the microbiome. It has some inhibitory effects on some of the organisms that we don't want, while enhancing the growth of those that we do want. So really quite special. So let's take a look at the results, the key results from this study that was done in athletes. It was a study, double-blind study, 500 milligrams of thymoquin once daily, 37 healthy runners training for a marathon or half marathon. When people are engaged in this level of training, it's extremely stressful, and it's very common for these runners to get sick before or immediately after this event. So perfect subject population to look at a compound that can influence cortisol levels. So in this study, there were two primary outcomes they were looking for. They wanted to see if it could help bolster the immune system in a way that would prevent upper respiratory complaints, such as those due to the common cold. And what they showed was that there was a 62% reduced rate of upper respiratory tract complaints in those that got the thymoquin. I take 500 milligrams twice a day. I think I'd be curious to see what that dosage would have produced, maybe even just a little better. And then look at this over here compared to the placebo group. There was a 44% reduction in salivary cortisol level in those athletes that took the thymoquin. And when you look at this ability, it's quite unique to thymoquin. Other studies with other black seed oil products showed that it did not affect cortisol levels. So why did cortisol levels come down with thymoquine? Because composition matters. In addition to the composition, thymoquine utilizes a sunflower proprietary blend of phytosterols to help increase the absorption of these active compounds. So this is looking at the thymoquinone bioavailability. Green is thymoquine 3% without the sunflower blend, and the gold is the level of thymoquinone in the blood when a person takes the same amount of thymoquine with this proprietary sunflower blend. So clearly, it dramatically increases the absorption, not only of thymoquinone, but the other beneficial compounds. So it's really a special form of black seed oil. Now, how does it compare to ashwagandha? Well, ashwagandha also lowers cortisol levels, but you'll see that thymoquine outperformed it in ashwagandha extract. These are best case scenarios. There are other studies with ashwagandha that didn't show it had this degree of benefit, but the study that I looked at, it decreased cortisol levels by 33%. It works by modulating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. With thymoquine, the idea is that it's working on the gut immune axis to lower cortisol levels, as well as improving the microbiome. So it has a different mechanism of action. The two might work very well together. So that's possible too. Okay, so let's summarize what I've covered. Our ability to handle stress is based on an interaction of many factors, and that's the key thing that I wanted to get across today. It's not enough to do a one thing. One thing may be the key, but you continuously have to be aware of stress in your life and take steps to reduce the effects that stress have in your life, on your life. So that's the key point. Sleep quality is directly related to our ability to handle stress. You have to make sleep a top priority. I know I'm laughing because it sounds so self-evident, but knowing something and doing it are two different things. I mean, we've all heard you should drink 8 glasses of water a day, right? How many people come close to that? And we all know that getting a good night's sleep is vital for us to function at our best. So make sleep quality a high priority. Nutritional status plays a big role in stress management. A high potency multiple vitamin and mineral formula, that's your insurance formula, but it's part of an overall dietary approach. You know, it starts with diet as far as the supplements go, high potency multiple. Make sure you use those active forms of B12 and folic acid. Take extra magnesium. Get those omega-3 fatty acids, extra vitamin D3, and some sort of plant-based antioxidant. I like grapeseed extract, 150 to 300 milligrams per day. In terms of improving our stress response, GABA is another nutritional component that you can use, very helpful in acute stress, maybe taking a test or getting on a plane or whatever. Then we can use botanical adaptogens to help improve our ability to handle stress and lower cortisol levels. I hope you've enjoyed this. I want to end by just saying a few things from my heart. I've learned a lot in my life. I've studied health since I was 19 years old. I'll be 67 next month. That's a long time to research, study, and live with a certain focus. And I noticed something many years ago. I started looking at people that were older, whom I respected, and who were happy and successful in life. You know, maybe not financially, if that's how you judge success, but in terms of the quality of their life and the impact they have on the people around them. And although these people had different personalities, what I noticed is they shared a common feature. They were quick to give thanks and show appreciation. And they were grateful and lived in a state of grace. We now know that there's a large body of scientific work that shows that people who are more grateful have higher levels of well-being, they're happier, they're less depressed or less stressed, and they're more satisfied with their lives and social relationships. So you have to find ways of expressing and feeling more gratitude in your life. And as I said, I'm giving this gift to people called Thrive, and that's one of my key lessons. 21-day blueprint to high level wellness. Each day will consist of a lesson. I just touched on some things today that you hopefully will find useful. If you really want to do a deep dive in learning my thoughts on how to live a life truly worth living, please. There's no fee for my program. You know, when you get older, you start thinking about legacy and what's important that you have lived a life. And you know, I put this program together for everyone, but especially for the people that I love and want to remember the important things that I've learned in my life. So I hope you sign up for the program, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have today. And also, I'll be appearing on the panel discussion in a few days as well. So with that, Michael, I'll welcome you back.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate all that information that you shared. So with that, we will go ahead and begin our Q&A. But before we do, if you can just tell us how people can get in touch with you and where they can get your books.
Yeah, the best place is just to go to drmurray.com, DoctorMurray, drmurray.com. Get on my newsletter, sign up for Thrive, you know, be a part of my community, and I would love to have an influence on your life.
Right. Thank you. So, given your strong advocacy for diet and lifestyle modifications, what specific dietary recommendations would you prioritize for individuals seeking to naturally manage elevated cortisol levels due to stress?
They got to stay away from sugar.
Okay.
They've got to stabilize blood sugar levels, and we know a lot goes into that, but the key dietary recommendation is staying away from refined sugars, anything that's going to quickly raise your blood sugar level. And then when you do eat carbohydrates, if they're healthy carbohydrates, such as you know, fruit or vegetables in particular, you need to keep your portion size under control. And that's so having a working knowledge of what's called the glycemic load is really important. Which is a combination of a food's glycemic index as well as the amount of carbohydrate in that food. Sometimes foods might have a very low glycemic index, but if you're eating a whole bowl of them, you know, you're gonna raise your blood sugar levels. So yeah, so just kind of having a working knowledge of that glycemic load.
What's the difference between glycemic index and glucose level?
Your glucose level is a level of glucose in your blood, and the glycemic index is the impact that a certain portion of food equal to 100 grams of sugar will have on your blood sugar level.
Okay. And does it have anything to do with the speed at which it goes into your bloodstream, or is that independent of that?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's going to look at your glycemic index is based upon the highest point. Usually it's measured in the first hour.
Great. Thank you. And you've spoken about the importance of attitude adjustment, if you will. What evidence suggests that practices like mindfulness or gratitude can directly impact the HPA axis and cortisol secretion in response to stress?
Oh, tons of research with various forms of meditation, especially. Um, Anytime there's diaphragmatic breathing and promoting that parasympathetic response, it has a dampening effect on cortisol levels. So it's very helpful. And as far as mindfulness goes, that's more of a practice that I think of as just being in a more relaxed parasympathetic state. And I think that leads to making better choices and avoiding triggers that raise cortisol. So I look at that. I look at mindfulness as being more of a proactive, preventive measure than a kind of a corrective measure. But yeah, it's important.
Thank you. So, drawing from your experience, your extensive research on dietary supplements, which specific natural products have you demonstrated the most compelling scientific evidence for their ability to modulate the body's stress response and regulate cortisol?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it gives me a chance to really share one of my philosophies because yeah, I've written a lot on the importance of dietary supplementation, and I've always tried to balance that by stressing that there's no supplement that can kind of compensate for a poor diet, not getting enough sleep, or an unhealthy lifestyle, or a negative attitude. So they're not magic pills. They work in our body as tools. But they are best used when they're part of a holistic approach and an overall philosophy of being good to yourself. It's I think one of the things that I think is my philosophy is one of the reasons I think we're here is to learn how to love, and it's kind of like on an airplane we have to put the mask on ourselves when that oxygen mask comes down, and so that we have to really learn the more we learn about ourselves and how to love ourselves, the more love we have to give to others, and I think that showing respect and honor to your body and your mind and your brain and your being, I think that's a sign of love. And I don't know if a lot of people view it like that. So yeah, maybe I'm an extremist because I avoid things that I know uh, uh, are not good for my body. Um, and that includes, trying to avoid negative thoughts and feelings as well, because those are killers. So
In your experience, do you find that when you're working with people, they tend to like go, "Oh, supplements, I'll take the supplements," as opposed, because they can just pop that in their mouth and swallow it, as opposed to doing the hard work of dietary change, having, good sleep
yeah,
hygiene,
yeah,
exercising, etc.
yeah, and it's been amazing. I'll tell you a quick story because I had a lot of patients. I got really good at helping people with depression, and uh, so people would come, I'm a naturopath, so they're coming in with this preconception that I was going to give them a magic herb. I must be giving magic herbs or something to make people happier, and yeah, sometimes I would give things, but one of the things that happens when people become depressed is they lose the ability to associate to the things that they enjoy in life. So some of my most meaningful prescriptions was finding out what they enjoyed in life and making that the first step, is making sure that they enjoyed those activities, because sometimes the two are hand in hand. If you can help somebody improve their physiology and their brain chemistry, then they regain. And I don't know if anyone else. There's a whole. So the classic way they look at depression is that it's kind of a learned helplessness, and they found that they could that led to the discovery of a lot of these antidepressant drugs. So they would put various animals in a shuttle box and expose them to pain, and they'd learn to be helpless. And if they gave them a drug, they would unlearn that, and they would move away from the danger and pain. But they found that they could get the same changes in the brain of these rats, mice, or dogs if they physically carried them away from the danger. So um, I think that it doesn't, I think that, obviously we want to do both, right? But I think in our current model, we're focused way too much on the biochemistry and not enough on the things that I think are equally as important, which is the behavior and the psychological attitude and lifestyle. They did a study in people that were severely depressed. These were people that were intractable, meaning they had not responded to any conventional pharmacological treatment for their depression. They were incurably depressed, and they had a control group, and then they had an active treatment group. The active treatment group, the first assignment they were given turned out to be the most powerful. They had them write a letter to someone who impacted their life in a positive way, and that letter was to express their gratitude to that person. And what happened is that 6 months later, those people that responded to that first letter were first effort in learning gratitude. They were still their Hamilton depression scores were much better, and they were no longer clinically depressed. It was when I looked at that study, what my thought was is that it's not that they did it once. They did it once, and it led to something. It created a change within them. And that change is that when they discovered that it felt really good to say thank you and acknowledge people. And usually when you acknowledge somebody, they start acknowledging you. And that's a positive feedback. These people, they were depressed because they had all this negative feedback. All of a sudden, they did something that was profoundly positive. I mean, when you look up somebody that you maybe hadn't talked to for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and you tell them what a pivotal person they were in your life, and how much you appreciated them for whatever it was, that's memorable for the person expressing as it is the person experiencing the gratitude. And that leads to a connection and an exchange, and that leads to health, healing, love, and all that comes from it.
So you had mentioned that sleep aids such as Ambien were disruptive to the sleep architecture and really weren't. They were knocking people out, essentially not really giving them good night's sleep. What's become very popular are the THC gummies and stuff like that. I don't think that was on your list. How do those types of
I took it off because I didn't want to cause too much controversy. But THC and CDB, they do not enhance sleep quality. You talk to people that are heavy users. They don't dream. They don't achieve those deeper levels of sleep. It leads to more fatigue. It's a dead end. maybe there better alternatives than the prescription, but in my opinion, not much.
Okay, so those are significantly disruptive. I've actually spoken to people who, after they stopped long-term usage of marijuana and THC, they said, "Wow, my dreams came back."
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting with 5-HTP. I started when I started using that in clinical practice, people would say, "Oh my God, I don't want to take it. I had a nightmare." And I said, "That's okay. You're going to work through it. You're just your subconscious mind is waking up, and there may be some disrupted dreams, but stick with it because it's a good sign." So it's not that the agent caused bad dreams; it is that the agent increased that communication between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. It's
Great.
good. Dreams are good. Dreams are good.
So another thing in the sleep conversation that I didn't see on the list was caffeine. People obviously use it to stay awake, and I think most of our society is addicted to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
How destructive is it to sleep?
Yeah, so it is a sleep disruptor. I think I had it on there, caffeine, alcohol,
Oh,
other drugs, but
okay.
I may not have had it on the slide. I thought I did, but um, it's really interesting about caffeine. Uh, so uh, it's one of my favorite subjects. In 2006, they did a study to try to explain why the research on caffeine and heart disease was so different depending upon the populations and the sources that were being studied. Some studies showed that caffeine intake increased high blood pressure, led to an increased risk for cardiovascular death, heart disease, and strokes. And other studies showed it had a protective effect. So the researchers asked the question, does this have anything to do with the way that people metabolize caffeine? So we know which genetic polymorphism is associated with rapid clearance of caffeine, and we know which is associated with a slow metabolism of caffeine. And when they started looking at what happens when these people that are fast metabolizers of caffeine drink 2 to 4 cups of coffee, and those that are slow metabolizers of caffeine that drink 2 to 4 cups of coffee, and the effect it has on heart disease, it was mind blowing because what they found was is that if you were a fast metabolizer and you drank 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day, you actually reduced your risk of having a heart attack or stroke by I think it was 70%. But if you
Wow.
were a slow metabolizer and you drank 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day, you would increase your risk of having a heart attack or stroke by 280%. So you'd have a 4 times greater risk, than the person with it. Yeah, so it was pretty significant. And so I always get asked the question, well, how do you know if you're a slow metabolizer or fast metabolizer? And my answer is always the same. You know. I knew myself that I was a poor metabolizer of caffeine. If I had caffeine, it didn't matter if I had it in the morning. My sleep would be disrupted for 2 to 3 days. I was, based upon my genetics, I should never have caffeine or alcohol. I don't metabolize them well. So on the flip side, if someone is a fast metabolizer, these people, they can have a double shot of espresso and go right to sleep at night. And my answer to them, as long as I think that 2 to 4 servings per day is safe for those people and beneficial, very beneficial. But if you're a slow metabolizer, you should stay away from caffeine. If you notice that when you have caffeine that you get nervous, that your heart rate increases, or it interferes with your sleep, you're likely a poor metabolizer. You can do a test, you can do a genetic test to see, but it's not really necessary. People really know if they're slow metabolizers or fast metabolizers.
So you talked about DHA and EPA and recommended fish oil. What are your thoughts on plant-based sources?
Well, you can now get EPA and DHA from algae, but historically the algae sources have been predominantly DHA, and DHA is great for like intestinal inflammation, for Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and leaky gut and that sort of thing. But in terms of getting it into your brain, the research is quite clear in depression. DHA has virtually no effect on depression, while EPA has significant benefits in depression. And the explanation is that the DHA doesn't get in the brain, and there's a lot of support for that. So with algae sources, they still have to have the EPA. It's got to be EPA DHA. Should be at least a 1-to-1. As far as flaxseed oil and chia and walnuts, they're a source of of alpha linolenic acid, and that conversion is a little bit better in women. They've got that little extra chromosome. Most of that extra chromosome is designed to produce a healthier baby. And so they can convert a little bit better, but not very well. And we see if we look at EPA and DHA levels, the omega-3 index in vegans, even if they're eating a very high plant-based intake of omega-3 fatty acids, alpha linolenic acid, they are woefully deficient in those longer chain omega-3 fatty acids. They just don't convert. Anyone that's a vegan, I would recommend that they supplement with the algae EPA and DHA, and they may want to get an omega-3 index test. It's really vital, I think, for them to get their levels up, particularly if a woman's planning to get pregnant. There are challenges being a vegan and having healthy babies, and making sure that you go through pregnancy healthy as well. In addition to these omega-3 fatty acids, iron is a major concern, so any vegan out there should get a serum ferritin level, particularly a woman, and in particular if she's planning to get pregnant in the near future. It's very important to get that serum ferritin level above 60. Get it above 60 if you want the healthiest possible pregnancy. Get it above 60.
So with regard to environmental toxins, how might chronic exposure to these substances impact the body's ability to manage stress and regulate cortisol levels effectively? And are there natural detoxification strategies you recommend in this context?
Yeah, we know that I'll digress a little bit. We know that the load of environmental pollutants is a bigger factor in contributing to type 2 diabetes than sugar and diet. They did a study back in, again, this was 2006 was a good year. They looked at pesticide residues in the blood in the National Health and Nutrition Survey. And what they found is that if they divided people up by body weight and by the level of pesticides in their body. They found that if someone was thin and they had a high level of pesticide in their body, they were 30 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than somebody who was obese, morbidly obese, who had the lowest level of these pesticide residues in their body. And that showed that correlation was irrefutable. There was a direct relationship between body stores of pesticides and the development of type 2 diabetes. It was more significant than body weight. And this is completely against the conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom is you gain weight, you could develop insulin resistance, and then you develop type 2 diabetes. But what this study showed was that you basically you accumulate these pesticides, they lead to insulin resistance, and then you get diabetes. If the body weight wasn't the critical factor.
Do you know the name of the research?
Yeah, it was Ducky Lee. It was in it was 2006. I think it was a JAMA journal. I think it was the American Journal of Epidemiology. But there have been dozens of studies since then that have shown the same sort of correlation. It's just that nobody reports on that because it goes against conventional wisdom. It's, you know, we don't have a drug for that, so it doesn't get talked about. It gets talked about on The Real Truth About Health.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And it is that what you're referring to, that aspect of the of those toxins, is that the obesogens? Or is that
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And what was interesting about this study, and again, this data was from the National Health and Nutrition Survey. It's gold standard research. And what was interesting, when they looked at any single pesticide, there was no link. But when they looked at the total, there was a significant link.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you kind of talk about this stuff not kind of being popularized. So obviously there's a bias in medical literature. And I believe in your work, you've talked about the bias in medical literature due to the pharmaceutical industry influence.
Yeah.
What resources or types of studies do you consider most reliable for unbiased information on the effectiveness of natural products for stress and cortisol?
Well, I think that whether something's biased or unbiased, there's a difference between that and the results, the study design and the results that are shown. So, you know, I don't think that just because a company might fund a study that makes the study biased, and you know, most studies that I've been affiliated with, when you fund a study, you sign off that, hey, you know, the results are the results, and they may not be good. So companies have to be pretty sure. So I would look, yeah, I think the key is not so much the funding source as being biased. I would say, you know, where was the study conducted? Was it conducted with some sort of internal review, and who actually did the study? There's a lot of research that's come out of on natural products, for example, that have come out of Iran, and most of those have been questioned because the researchers were biased, not in what they wanted to produce, but they were biased because they wanted to get paid, and so they sometimes made up studies, you know, and we can't have that. So I think more than anything, it's look, if people are wanting to know the credibility of a study, they have to look at the credibility of the researchers doing the study. that's the key factor. I think it's more of in terms of natural products, and because let's face it, if these companies don't have a commercial interest, they're not going to fund a study. You know, they don't have any there's got to be a
Right.
reward.
Why invest in a study if they're not getting a return? Right.
Right.
So, in the context of aging and hormonal shifts, what are your thoughts on the use of bioidentical hormones in relation to the body's natural stress response?
My concern about bioidentical hormones is that they're age appropriate, and they're within normal range. You know, there were I remember when all these women were lathering themselves in progesterone, and I would see progesterone levels that were 4,000 times normal. And there's no way that I would, in my philosophy, consider that a healthy level. Same thing with testosterone in men. I think there's some benefits with using testosterone in aging men, but the levels should be age appropriate. You know, I have colleagues when they have a man that has low testosterone at 60, they're gonna dose them up to the same testosterone level of someone that's in their teens. You know, that's and I think that's stressful for. I think it's going to lead to imbalances and just not. It's not the natural order of things. So I'm a big fan of bioidentical hormones used with some rationale, and not to use what are called super physiological doses, but use identical doses to what you would see in a particular target population.
And even bringing up the levels of testosterone in this example, to an age appropriate level, I would imagine that there are also other corresponding hormones in the body that kind of work synergistically, but yet you're only introducing one hormone. Is there anything to that?
Yeah, I mean it's everything is connected. You know, when you press one pedal, you know, it's going to influence. We're a system. Our body is a beautiful, harmonious system. At least that's how it's designed to be. And you know, disease is when something is out of that harmony. And yeah, so you know, my philosophy is to always move towards that healthy state, and that obviously is going to mean that I want everything to be in the right level. And yeah, so that's just my philosophy. But you know, there's other doctors. I have friends, you know, they have a completely different philosophy, and um, I think my philosophy is really rational, but they just tell me, you know, they have their own thoughts on it, and that's okay. Uh, I'm not gonna be upset that they don't agree with me, but I'm not gonna change my mind because I think my thoughts are really rational.
Okay. I know the feeling. So
Yeah.
we have about 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts for the audience?
Your health is your first wealth. Invest in it. Make it a focus in your life, and not just in your body, but in every aspect of your life. Your relationships, in particular, um, they have to be as healthy as they possibly can. So, God bless you. Thank you for watching, and sign up for my Thrive program. I think you'll enjoy it.
All right, great. And just real quickly, you want to just give another shout out to where they can go and sign up?
Yeah, drmurray.com. It's on the front page, and click on it, and you'll get 5 minutes of video and a 5 minute read every day for 21 days. And my hope is it'll change your life.
Great. And thank you so much for all the information that you shared with us today. Really appreciate it. We could unmute the audience, please.
I'm
So
Lacey
weird.
Menendez, and
Yeah,
we'll begin
because
tonight
everything
with the
works out right.
continued fallout from
Thank
President
you.
Trump's
Me too.
Liberation Day
Okay,
global
honey.
trade
Yeah,
war,
Okay,
thank
honey.
you.
his second day financial market
I
two-year
do.
free
Like
fall.
it.
Today,